Hello everyone, and welcome to the next episode in my series, I Have Never Seen, which as the name suggests, I review movies that I've never seen before. Specifically, older films that get voted on by all of you. For this third video in the series, I read that a couple of films celebrating their 50th anniversary in 2024 would be returning to theaters. So, I gave you the option of either picking Roman Polanski's Chinatown or Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather Part 2, and you all selected the former. Therefore, that's what we'll be talking about today. I'm Zach Kircher, and you're watching Kircher Talks Entertainment. Now, as I said in the intro, this video topic was chosen by viewers like you. If you would like to help decide what future videos will be about, please consider subscribing to the channel and be sure to watch out for posts on my community page. All of the reviews for this series will be decided by the polls that I feature on that community page. Before we go any further, I also need to address the elephant in the room, director Roman Polanski himself. You may have heard the saying, separating the art from the artist, and that is the burden I face in writing and producing this video. After all, I want you all to know that any praise I bestow upon Chinatown is not intended to be an endorsement for the man who directed it. Me buying a ticket for it is not intended to be an endorsement of Polanski either, for my $2.95 went towards Pollock Cinemas in Tempe, an independently owned theater that rented the film for commercial use, and the same theater I also attended for the first video in this series. I then bought the Blu-ray shortly thereafter, but I purchased it used, so that money went solely to the independent seller. Anyway, to provide context, Roman Polanski received a conviction in 1977 relating to predatory sexual relations with a minor. When he learned that his plea bargain might be overruled in exchange for a harsher sentence, he then fled the country and has continued his career in Europe ever since. No matter how great his art may be, that doesn't change the fact that he did something absolutely despicable and escaped justice. People need to be held accountable for their actions. I felt that I needed to address this up front because Chinatown is undoubtedly the best film I've watched for this series thus far, but it was unfortunately directed by a person who has inflicted terrible harm upon other human beings. As such, I would encourage anyone who's watching this video, please donate to a hotline dedicated to helping victims of sexual assault. I'm not sponsoring any particular hotline by saying this, but I made a donation to the organization that I chose, so I hope that you would do some research and then donate to one that you feel would directly benefit victims the most. That being said, when talking about the movie Chinatown itself, it stands the test of time and transcends the messed up individual behind the camera because its story touches on themes that still have an impact to this day. I don't just say that because I live in a desert where control and ethical use of water is an ongoing issue. The story may be centered on large, politically charged issues, but it remains grounded in the challenges of everyday people. The movie starts with our main protagonist, Jake Gittes, a Los Angeles-based private investigator played by Jack Nicholson. You know, one of those Humphrey Bogart types, just without the signature voice. He's hired to investigate a possible case of infidelity, although that eventually leads him into an increasingly complicated web of unsavory relationships, disputes over water rights, and even murder. That's a gross oversimplification of events in the story, but I don't want to go much deeper than that as to protect people from spoilers in case they haven't seen it before. Hey, those people exist. I was one of them after all. Admittedly, I do feel a bit ill-equipped to offer any substantive commentary on such a revered film as this, especially since its Oscar-winning screenplay by Robert Towne is considered to be one of the greatest ever written. For me to add nuance and depth to a work of art that has been talked about at great scholarly lengths would be a presumptuous effort indeed. However, I established this I Have Never Seen series on the principle that I'm just a guy who loves movies, and furthermore, a guy who wishes to deepen that love by engaging with older films they've missed out on. Therefore, I hope me just talking about my experience of watching it will be enough. In that, one way that Chinatown surprised me as it went on is how genuinely entertaining it is. After hearing so much critical and scholarly praise of a movie like this, it was tough for me to imagine it having mainstream appeal. But perhaps that's the film's core strength, that being that it harbors strong thematic power, while also just being a good time at the movies. There's a dry sense of humor that permeates throughout the whole runtime, even as things start to get very dark, and the many twists and turns kept me engaged without having to resort to extreme storytelling measures. Jack Nicholson's portrayal of Jake Gittes is also a crucial element in this movie's entertainment value, since he enables his character's behavior to make him more heroic as the threads of this complex, dark story steadily unravel. He has a satisfying character arc of trying to put off his more selfish monetary desires desires, for dousing out the evils he finds himself confronting in continually escalating manners. It just so happens that he does a lot of this with an obnoxious gauze pad stuck to his nose for much of the runtime, on account of a nasty knife wound he got to the nostril. I just can't get over how silly he looks with that on his nose, all the while he's trying to undergo an investigation into some really serious stuff. That just endeared him to me more though, especially since he makes an effort to do what is right, even in the face of guilt over his past, as well as him gathering evidence of something truly malicious at work. This character is essential to the film, for despite not really starting out as a likable person, his ultimately righteous quest helps to counteract the dour tone the film operates on. I had mentioned earlier that Chinatown incorporates themes that still hit home to this day, and Jake Gittes fighting against seemingly insurmountable corruption is a major part of that. After all, how often do you look at the state of the world and find it too far gone to be redeemable? Perhaps you try to shut that question out from your mind as you drive to and from your 9-to-5 job, just like I often do, but sometimes that thought is unavoidable. For me, I try to go about my life seeing the best in people and make an impact within my sphere of influence, no matter how small it may be. I'm aware that I am just one guy though, and my efforts don't change the fact that there are filthy people out there who control things beyond the reach of the common people. These are the sorts of ideas that underlie Chinatown right until the very end. While being vague about what ultimately happens, I can't say that this spells out a conveniently happy end for our characters. This film is undoubtedly knee-deep in the cynicism that defined the 1970s. But for anyone who can appreciate a meaningful tragedy, particularly one that contains elements of classical Greek stories like Oedipus Rex, there is much to take away from Chinatown, regardless of whether those insights are hopeful or hopeless. Don't let that deter you from giving this film a shot though, for the story is neither pretentious nor lacking in substance. For me, it earned its keep as a classic of New Hollywood, while it also served as just an entertaining and well-made picture show as a whole. Seeing it on a big screen really helped me appreciate how technically sound it is, with all of its deep colors and gorgeous landscape shots. It's rare to find a movie that has a rich texture rivaling that of movies made in this day and age, but Chinatown is one such film. Again, I may not feel equipped to analyze such a legendary film from a technical standpoint due to having only seen it once, but I could literally see why it has such a strong reputation. The crucial twist and how it factors into the knockout finale sure is something as well, especially if you know the context of what I talked about at the beginning of the video. Beyond that, I'm just grateful that Chinatown worked as well for me as it did. As a film fan, there are fewer things more annoying to me than wanting to catch up with a classic that seemingly everyone loves, only to be underwhelmed for one reason or another. With regards to Roman Polanski's filmography, the only other movie of his that I had seen was Rosemary's Baby, which I incidentally had also caught at a special showing in theaters. And yeah, having been aware that it's considered a classic of the horror genre, I left the theater appreciating the film more than actually loving it. Maybe I'll have to revisit it some other time to experience it, separated from preconceived notions. But not so with Chinatown, for despite all of the acclaim it's received these past 50 years, it legitimately earned a place in my heart on its own terms. For anyone looking to get more familiar with classics of decades gone by, this is an awesome place to start. With that being said, I consider Chinatown to be essential viewing for anyone who loves movies, although it's best for older teenagers and adults due to some genuinely disturbing subject matter, particularly with regards to how it ends. There's also some language and brief partial nudity to be aware of as well. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, for doing so really does help my channel grow, and I will see you all in the next one.